Welcome to Tea Time, the voice of the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition. Tonight we have a very exciting show. It's a really amazingly large topic. We're going to be dealing with the health care bill that was passed by Congress, the otherwise known as Obamacare. And I have as my guests today, I have Nicholas Purpura and Donald Lastert.
Yes.
These two gentlemen are just two citizens who are petitioning our government for the grievance of their action in passing the Obamacare.
Yes.
I guess I put that in the most general of terms.
We're petitioning the government on our First Amendment rights on a grievance.
Okay, and the grievances are against the Obamacare bill, National Health Care bill.
Right.
And you have specifically 16 counts.
It's actually 15 counts.
15 counts.
But that cover about 19 specific provisions of the U.S. Constitution and a number of statute laws.
Okay, so you're petitioning the government in that as citizens that the federal government has violated our U.S. Constitution in numerous ways by the passage of this law.
By the passage of the law and in the bill itself.
Okay.
The bill itself is not a health care bill. Let's put that on the table up front. This is a control bill. Mm-hmm. They totally take control of the people, but it's also a bill to set precedents. As you will see when you go over the counts, they're setting a precedence to basically rule the people.
Right. Now we'll call it the suit.
Right.
The petition, the suit. You two are doing this as private citizens.
Yes.
Educated individuals, as all of us as Americans should be, with a common knowledge, and that common knowledge is really all one needs when it comes to actually reading the U.S. Constitution. Our founders, when they wrote that document, had it such that I think up until maybe 25, 30 years ago, the average school child would be able to understand it quite clearly.
Well, that was started the 5th grade.
I started in the 5th grade.
Right. So you're not Harvard law degree individuals.
No.
You're not the you're just voters, citizens, Americans who are practicing your First Amendment rights.
We took the time to read the bill.
You took the time to read the bill.
But more so the bill.
2,000.
All 2,409 pages of it and the follow-on bill. Tedious, but it's actually very understandable if you take the time to carefully read it.
And then what's frightening, when you read it, you watch your amendments go out the window. 4th Amendment, 5th Amendment, 10th Amendment, 14th Amendment, 13th Amendment, 16th Amendment. And you say, wait a minute, First Amendment.
Okay.
This can't be. This cannot possibly
I
be.
have here a list of all the various ones here. But of all the counts, which is the most important in your estimation?
Well, I wouldn't say which is the most important, but we could go down the line.
Since we have 28 minutes.
Okay, 20 minutes quickly. First of all, the bill was brought in a fraudulent manner because once Brown in Massachusetts became senator for Kennedy, Obama administration wanted this bill passed.
Okay, so they were fast-tracking this bill when they realized that the Senate did not have the majority.
There was a filibuster, that's correct.
But you have to remember, the Senate rejected the House's bill.
Okay, so first the House bill was passed.
3,200.
In the garbage.
Yeah, I remember.
Totally.
You had 3,200 and 1679 in the Senate. Mm-hmm. The Senate said, we will not touch H.R. 3200.
And that was the bill that was out there when all the town hall meetings were happening in the summertime and all that.
And simultaneously.
So then what happened was that the Senate got the bill and they rejected that.
Correct.
But simultaneously, they were writing their own bill.
That's where
so the Senate was introducing and writing their own bill.
Correct.
So what the Senate did is they created a revenue-raising bill.
Okay. So
that violates the Constitution.
In your document here,
right,
you can show that the Senate of the United States created this bill, and this bill, which became the Obamacare law, started in the U.S. Senate. And the fact that it started in the U.S. Senate would be okay, except for the fact that this bill levies taxes.
That's correct. But
Not just taxes,
more,
fees, remember, it's
Fees, revenue.
It's any
Capital-
revenue-raising
capitation.
bill
Okay.
is required to originate in the House of Representatives.
And that's by Article 1
Article 1, Section 7, Paragraph 1,
of the U.S. Constitution.
U.S. Constitution.
Okay, so if this Obamacare bill, as it's currently law, had originated in the House of Representatives
It
and
would have
then
been-
gone to the Senate, then everything would be
That
cool.
count would not be involved.
that count would not
Okay.
be, but the key is, they slipped it in, and there was no way they needed, once Brown got into office, they needed a House designated number. So what they did is they took Rangel's bill that was sitting in the House for years, a 2009 bill.
Was
on
that a
veterans.
healthcare bill?
No,
It
it
was
was
a-
a veterans homeowners.
It was a service members tax ownership
bill.
credit bill.
Okay, so this was a House of Representatives bill that had gone through the House of Representatives, went to the Senate, was
And sat
sitting in a
there.
drawer somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they basically decided to keep the name,
Oh, no.
keep the
Just the
number,
number.
the
No, just keep the
designation.
number.
No,
Right.
the leadership of both houses, that's Reid and Pelosi, and their little committee, ripped out the 6.5 pages of HR 3590, put them in the garbage, slipped in the Senate version of the revenue raising bill.
2,400 and
But then
something.
they looked at it and said, we just need the number. This doesn't look like a veterans bill. Well, let's erase that and throw that in that garbage. No, it's now the healthcare bill. But they got what they wanted,
A number.
a number.
That gives
a
the
designated
appearance.
number.
Just by the very fact that the bill that they had from Charlie Rangel from the House of Representatives sitting in the drawer had the number that was correct
And then-
in the sense
But here's what you have to
of
realize.
that it was a passed House bill.
What they,
That's what they went on.
what they've now to play the game that this is substitution that's done all the time. Let me put this to rest so quickly so we go to the next count. S510 was passed by the Senate, which had a provision that raised revenue. It went back to the House just recently, I don't think it was 3 weeks ago. The House and House Democrats screamed, you can't write this bill in the Senate. There's revenue in it. After they passed it, it had to go back to the House, be rewritten, and then sent on a Sunday evening back to the Senate to be signed. They didn't have time to do this with healthcare, so they said, who's going to know?
Okay, so they've been found out in that regard.
So,
Yes. Okay.
well, a congressman was called. They said, hey, isn't this a revenue-raising bill? Did you not slip this in? Yeah, well, why aren't you supporting the people of Staten Island, New Jersey? Why? Look, we do this all the time. He said, if you go through 100 red lights and you don't get caught, do you pay a fine? No. Did you get caught? Yeah. Well, then you're paying the fine. Is it legal? No.
Okay, so basically what was happening was a lot of backroom smoke and mirrors, switching around, hoping that this would get passed and nobody would ever notice it.
No
Now,
one would say anything.
Right, and you guys have found it out, and
Yep.
now petitioning to a U.S.
District Court.
District Court in Trenton, New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Okay, so
Judge Wolfson
as
presiding.
two citizens, you're filing suit against the federal government, specifically.
On that one count, but it's very important to know, both sides, the Department of Justice and the people in Florida,
The Florida ruling
asked the Chief
Vincent.
Judge Vincent, to tell us about the history of the bill. In his decision, he clearly says this is a Senate-originated bill. Why did he throw it out? The issue was not before him. He could only rule on what's before him.
Right.
He could have done it sua sponte, but that would have caused too much of a hassle. So he just listed in there in more than one place, wasn't it, Donald?
He
A number of
pretty
pages.
much covered it.
He covered it fully.
Okay, so
So there's no excuse.
for our viewers, they're aware that there have been a number of lawsuits about the healthcare,
Right.
the Obamacare law. Now, this particular suit that was happening in Florida, they were ruling on a particular aspect of the Obamacare
Correct.
law, but the judge mentions and specifically declares
Discusses.
He writes it in his whole order.
that this bill originated in the Senate.
He does.
Correct.
Anyone with a brain that knows or can follow the money, as it's said,
Yeah.
all you have to do is follow the path, look at the paperwork, unless they specifically start to try to fudge the documents, can see exactly what
originated-
happened.
Bill's illegal from day
So
one.
that's the first count.
Right.
What's the next count that is on
Well,
our...
the next count was the Commerce Clause, which was our count 2, and then you could go over to the 10th Amendment. There's no need to go into that because the courts already have decided. In fact, Judge Hudson
in Virginia has invalidated
said
part of
this thing is not within the Constitution,
Okay.
nor even in the spirit of the Constitution.
Okay, and that's the
We're
question.
not going to have to
that
go
was
into
the
that.
lawsuit that Virginia took against the,
Yes.
the Attorney General of the state of Virginia took against the federal government on behalf of the state of Virginia in regard to the fact that you had to be required to purchase
Right, part of
insurance.
the individual
and
mandate.
the government was, the Obama administration was claiming that just the very act of anything happening with healthcare is interstate
No.
commerce in some respect.
The idea of breathing is...
Breathing now has become an act of commerce.
Oh, so you're
So
breathing.
if you're breathing,
you're
well,
staying
hey,
alive.
hey,
The fact that you're not
you
dead
cross
yet.
the line, you have to pay.
Okay.
You must buy it.
But the judge there ruled that
He
their
said you're out
action-
of your mind.
Right. That
He
their
basically
actions
said
were-
you're out of your mind.
Right. So it was shot down on that. Okay, where are we on our next
And
count?
we have that in there, plus we elaborate on the Commerce Clause.
Now, for our viewers, this is a big, heavy topic, but I just want to alert you that if you go to our website, NewJerseyTeaPartyCoalition.org, all of this is on our website, including the
Every
entire
paper.
suit, the PDF on this, a 41-minute video specifically on this.
Letters
links,
to the judge.
Everything is on our
Everything,
website, all
that
the
one
links.
little
But anyway,
fishy
so now
little-
let's get to our next count. That's
Well, the next one probably what you would like is count 3, which involves
One of my favorites.
their health corps creation.
the health corps.
Yeah.
Is that sort of
Ready
like
Reserve.
doctors and nurses that are ready to help you at a moment's notice?
No, this is Obama's private little army. This is the beginning of it. Now let me go this very, very quickly, because what this does is Mr. Obama, 24 hours before this bill was signed into law and passed by the houses, they slipped in this Ready Reserve Corps.
Oh, so the bill was drawn up, but then,
Oh, yes,
as
this
Nancy
guy.
Pelosi said, we have to pass the bill in
To
order
see
to
what's
know
in-
that
Well,
what's
we
inside
know
the
what was
bill.
So they stuck something else in.
So they stuck something in 24 hours before they did the
Now,
final
the
vote.
president could call up this corps on any national emergency he wants and
So
go
this
into
is-
any state he wants with his little troops. Wait a minute. The Posse Comitatus Act says you can't come into my state unless my governor requests you to come in. But not with this bill,
The key
and
is
there's a draft.
the key is to think of Katrina. Mississippi and Alabama requested federal aid before Katrina hit.
And the federal government was there.
Louisiana kept stalling and stalling and
They didn't want
stalling.
Bush to send
Right.
aid.
And even, I think it took 2 weeks before the governor finally said,
Okay,
help.
you could come in.
Right. So, as we all know, and as been shown through Katrina, and it's just common knowledge, that our states are sovereign
Right.
in the sense that the federal government, if they were to cross from New York into New Jersey
You need
with
permission.
an army, it would be an invasion
Right.
of our state.
Oh,
The key,
absolutely.
what you have to remember is a state is the equivalent of a nation.
Right.
Most people think of states and they think of provinces like Canada, but they have to think of states like in Europe,
Right.
and that's an important distinction
Because
of our system.
We had,
Right, 'cause
we
that-
had 13
as we,
nations.
as we
13
know,
nations,
when
in
Great
the Articles of
Britain
Confederation.
signed when Great Britain signed the peace treaty after the Revolutionary War, they did not sign it with the United States of America. They signed it with 13 individual countries.
13 individual countries
Right.
that
That's
entered
a
into
well-known
contract.
fact of
Right.
history.
No,
Yeah.
people don't know
So now
that.
this establishment of Obama's private army,
Right.
is there wording in the law, as we'll call
Well,
it?
the key is the Constitution grants the creation of a Navy and armies.
Okay,
The Navy has the Marine Corps.
correct.
The Army had the Air Force.
Now, the Army, if you remember in World War II, you had the Army Air Force,
Or the Army Air Corps,
Corps.
or the Army Air
Corps.
Corps, correction.
which is less than 10,000 troops.
So when they did it, it is an army. In the same way, all of these, like the Medical Service Corps, the Surgeon General, they fall under the provisions of the Army restrictions.
Right.
And they fall under the Department of Defense, too, I think.
A lot of them fall under, and they
This
are,
doesn't. It's very true.
they are
Country's gone to hell.
They are, the key is they are administratively separated for convenience.
Okay.
That's the key. But the catch is, our Constitution specifically states you may only fund an army for
a
2
2-year
years at a time.
Right.
Obama's little army is funded for 4 years
Or
plus.
more.
Okay, so for the benefit of our viewers, there is wording in the healthcare law which calls for the establishment of a quasi-military federal
Army.
Yes.
corps.
And it violates...
Which
and
could be
it
used
Under
during-
the authority of the Surgeon General. Key.
And the president
General,
on his order.
under the Surgeon General, not under the Congress.
which
Okay.
is a military force.
Okay, so moving along, we've
Yeah,
got a
which-
number
yeah,
of
And,
different things.
and it violates the Constitution.
One of the ones that you were talking about, which I thought was amazing, is that it's a violation of the First Amendment
Oh, that's...
Okay,
You want
let me tell you.
in the
Go.
sense of freedom of religion,
Right.
or the imposing of a religion.
Right. The key thing to remember is churches and religious organizations are granted tax-exempt status not because they are religions, but because they are nonprofit. Profit-making arms of religious organizations are taxed.
Right.
The exemption in the bill is specifically based on membership in a religious organization.
Okay, so what is happening is then that the federal government is giving preference to people of a particular religious persuasion over individuals who
Based
are not.
on their
absolutely.
based on their membership in the organization.
Right. So if when this bill were passed, I were a member of an Amish community,
Right.
I would not.
You would
Be
not have
under-
to have. You would be exempt
I would be exempt from this.
from it. Yeah.
Now, let's...
But now, because of the very fact that I don't fall under the protected classes identified by those who are passing this law, now all of a sudden
You're subjected to it.
I'm being subjected to penalties and
Right.
things. My freedom is reduced because I'm not a member of that particular
But
group.
now- Right.
That's an endorsement of a particular
Exactly.
religious group.
That's right. It's an endorsement. But what more dangerous in this particular case is Muslims are exempt because of the Sharia law. Now, if they're exempt because of Sharia law, are we not setting as a precedent that their religion doesn't allow them to buy health care? Their religion says Sharia law is what they have to follow. Does that supersede the United States Constitution and American laws? We are setting a precedent.
So in some way, by giving an exemption to Islamics because of the
You're
fact
setting a precedent.
that you're setting not only just a precedent, but you are giving a preference and endorsement towards
you're
Sharia
violating
law,
the 14th Amendment.
which it's a violation of the 14th
Equal
Amendment.
You also
protection.
violate the 14th,
The 14th
And,
Amendment
you know,
is right.
Okay.
It's totally violated.
as well as Amendment 1.
But they could go to any hospital and you're going to pay for it.
Right.
They can walk into any hospital.
But in some ways, this is almost a nefarious move to somehow legitimize Sharia law.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it can be viewed as that.
And what's
as that
frightened me
could
is
be-
Mr.
could be
Obama
used as
said very clearly, if
Okay.
it came to trouble, I would stick with the Muslims.
What next? And, I mean, we've
we're-
got so many
yeah,
different
there-
counts, and there's so much to cover.
Yeah.
Fourth Amendment, I like to go on.
The Fourth Amendment is probably the next one that people are going to be really interested
How does
in.
how does the Obamacare law violate the Fourth
Well, that's
Amendment?
really good.
Okay,
Search and seizure.
Your
Your
are-
papers are given to the government.
you're required. There is required to get to any of your papers,
Okay.
documents, anything. You have to have a search warrant issued
Signed by a judge.
based on
Currently, there's a search warrant that's required.
and it has to be very specific as to what is searched,
Right.
seized, the whole bit.
Yes.
In this bill, the bureaucracy is granted the authority to basically get any of your records at any time they want for their justification to make sure that doctors and hospitals and other such things
Follow government rules.
are following the rules. You buy insurance. So in other words, your freedom goes out the window. They say you have to do this, and we can just grab your records and ensure that you're doing it.
Okay, so right now we have the HIPAA laws,
Well, no,
and those HIPAA laws are basically being totally violated.
HIPAA laws.
And think about what it does. A doctor cannot give your medical records
To your wife or
anybody
husband.
without written permission.
Right.
In most cases, they can, unless it's related to your medical treatment.
Right.
Well, this law says if we ask for it, you have to give it to us. So they make the doctor into criminal in both cases.
The doctor becomes
Right.
criminal.
Because he's violating the HIPAA law, and if
And now
he
he's
doesn't-
violating this law.
And he's violating this law. So Has the federal government recognized by the adoption of Obamacare that in some way that they've now nullified the HIPAA laws?
But this particular-
Or does this one supersede the other one?
There was, I understand, they tried to, when
we put our brief out, they went to
started
Congress,
trying
they
to-
wanted to do away with the HIPAA law.
a thing to change the HIPAA law.
Abrogated.
So now they want to change the HIPAA law.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Because
they-
of the fact that they're in violation of
and
that.
after
Right.
they got our suit.
And yeah, it did
After
occur.
September this came out, we heard this was coming up.
Now, right now, as I understand it, you're two individuals that are representing yourself as citizens petitioning.
representing,
Ourselves
representing,
and those who signed
representing
that
is not really the correct term to use.
Petitioning.
We are petitioning, and we just happen to be the two people that are representing, who are in court.
Right.
And doing the brief. There
Now,
are
now
other
people can
joined
sign
in.
on to this.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And they keep signing on every day.
And so if we or those that are viewing wanted to have an opportunity,
Come on in.
You
Please
have the
join
links
us.
on your website.
we have the links to our website. So it's almost like we could have a petition nationwide where everybody could just join on to
Hopefully
the
that
lawsuit.
happens.
Yes, and it just gets added in, and as part of the things we
Because
added
that's
in.
our right to petition the government. And let me bring out a very important point. They're turning around now and saying, well, you can't represent people. The United States Constitution supersedes any statutes, any laws that are made thereafter.
Right.
It is the Supreme Court of the land, despite what these technicalities, these lawyers and judges are trying to put in our way.
Well, the Constitution is very clearly open in the sense that it says, we the people.
Right.
So therefore, all power goes back to the people.
It always
Right.
has.
And the people make up the various
Right.
states, and the various states create
Right.
the federal government.
Correct. And
Hamilton
that's
said it
important.
best.
So now, we the people, under the
Provisions of Amendment 1
right.
are bringing grievances.
Okay. Even though that there's just maybe now 2 to 100 and
Oh,
to
no,
300,000.
no. There's
Okay.
quite a few people. involved.
Okay. Do we need to get half the U.S. population, so it's 51% for a majority?
I would
We
love it.
want every
Citizen
citizen
of
of
this-
this country to sign on.
Okay. Is there a risk that the petition could be thrown out of this particular court, and because of
They
the
could
fact,
try.
Okay.
They will try. We will, of course, appeal. But they're going to try to throw this out on a technicality, because they cannot throw it out when you have violations of the Constitution throughout the bill.
Right.
They cannot. It's virtually impossible. But they are obligated. The courts are obligated to answer any federal challenge. If you give a challenge to the Constitution, the federal court is charged with the duty to answer that discrepancy in the Constitution. They have no choice.
Right.
If you could go back to, if they tried to use, let's say, for example, the 11th Amendment, we're immune. No, you're not.
Right.
Not if there's a constitutional issue. Constitutional issues take precedence over everything
Right.
in all our laws.
So this petition is gaining a lot of traction.
Yep.
It is very well documented. I've read it myself. I'm very familiar with the counts.
So have many
and-
lawyers.
And yes, I'm aware of that, including the ones from the Justice Department who don't like the fact that the cockroaches are running from the shining light of truth, because the shining light of truth is pretty clear here in the
We've
Constitution.
given talks throughout New Jersey, and we always hope that there's attorneys in the crowd. So we're going to make an open challenge to any law professors, any attorneys, bring the whole school, and Don and I will sit before you and challenge you in an open forum, in a town hall meeting, and you tell us where we're wrong in any single count. Because
That is a fantastic open challenge.
and I challenge them, because guess what?
We've
We
answered.
can read the Constitution. It hasn't changed. It's in English. And I didn't press 1. It's in English.
Right. And it's not 18th century English.
And it's not, it's
Well,
basic English for the average citizen.
It's English, it's clear, concise English. It's
Right.
not legalese.
That's correct.
And that's the important distinction.
Right.
We're not dealing with legalese, that if you do this and that. And boom, boom,
Cut and dry.
boom, cut and dry.
Absolutely.
Let's
yes.
go to the next, let's go to another count.
Very quickly, because we're on the
Let's
very
go to
tail
the
end.
due process, quickly.
Okay.
In 8 places alone, in the bill, guess what? You could go to jail, or you could be fined, or your property could be confiscated without a trial by jury. That is a taking, because I don't care what...
Which is a legal term.
Take is a legal term. The Supreme Court said before any of your property can be taken, you must have due process. There is no due process. And remember, too, on the 13th Amendment in this particular bill,
Yeah.
servitude. You're a slave. You're going to go to jail. If you don't, you're going to pay money if you do not take health care.
Yeah.
Involuntary servitude is the basic idea that you do something for someone else and you don't have a choice.
Right. And that's what this law does.
You have no choice.
Exactly.
This law takes away our rights as we, the people of the United States. It puts us as subjects of the federal government.
Right. And what they also do is they're saying, in order to help all these people who don't have insurance, you have to buy insurance so that we can cover all these people.
Yeah. And that's called,
what involuntary servitude is.
and
Right.
what they're doing is to mixing up the general welfare with specific welfare.
Right.
And the Supreme Court already stated in many of their rulings, no specific welfare. You
So
can't
we,
take from down
we've
to
only
pay for
just
Tim.
we've only just scratched the surface
Oh,
of
you've
this
only scratched it.
amazing
Yes.
petition of our federal government, folks. I can't urge you enough to go to New Jersey Tea Party Coalition.org, our website, where we have all this information. You can take the time to read it. You can find out what these amazing gentlemen have researched, what they have found out, what the federal government is trying to do to you as a citizen. They're trying to take away your rights. They're trying to make you a slave and a servant to them. We ask that you join with us in this fight. Log on to our website. We want you to sign on as an individual
Petitioning the government.
who is petitioning the government. It's our right. Handle your rights
I
and make
think
it
there's
happen.
something you all should know, too, the 14th Amendment.
We are so out of time.
We are.
It's amazing how we have covered so much of this.
The 14th Amendment, they violate our civil rights laws, too, by the way.
There is so much.
There's so much
There
in
is.
this.
It normally takes 2 hours.
We give presentations of 2 hours. I got to tell you, but that would really bother me. You didn't get civil rights. They're pitting us against each other.
Well, I thank you so much for being with us. We
My
took
pleasure.
2 hours and put it to 28 minutes. The point is, there are people who are interested. They're going to go to the website.
Right.
And pray for us.
Absolutely.
Take
Thank
your
you.
prayer.
Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the work you're doing.
Thank you for allowing us to.